Howdy, I'm Javen, and I'm a spirited person. I'm not a chef. I am not a cook. I'm a loser in their parents' house doing their best to make a decent quantity of food that also tastes good. These chicken legs will become tandoori chicken quesadillas. Right now, I'm cutting to the bone. It's basically a way to help the chicken cook faster and to get some of those spices in there. The tandoori chicken quesadilla is a fun thing that combines some of my Indian heritage and the Tex-Mex cuisine I grew to love growing up. This video isn't a planned out recipe. It's basically what I would do on a weeknight if I wanted to make some tandoori chicken and had some tortillas left over. That basically means I'm making up as it goes. Just does not require any fresh ingredients really. It's a lot of just pantry essentials that come together to make something really good. Usually in recipes, they'll recommend that you pat your meat dry. Because in this recipe, I'm already going to be putting yogurt, lime juice, oil on it. I don't see any point in doing that. It seems just more like a waste of time and a waste of resources. After you cut up your chicken legs, get a big bowl out, add salt, ginger, garlic, onion powder, turmeric, red chili, coriander, garam masala, yogurt, some oil, and finally some lime juice. I'll include some approximate measurements in the description. And you have to mix this by hand. It's the only way to get all the spices in every crevice of the chicken. After mixing, you should probably let it rest for 30 minutes to up to 12 hours. I didn't. This is a weeknight meal. I immediately started cooking it. The second I started prepping, I put my oven to convection 400 degrees so that I can pop these right in the oven. I sprayed the pan with non-stick spray, but sadly it did not work out that well when it came to the skin, even with that added oil. That's me popping it in, unaware of the skin that's going to be torn brutally from the chicken in a little bit. If you couldn't tell, those were hand signs for 30. I'm leaving it in there for 30 minutes, setting a timer, and checking the chicken out. After the 30 minutes, make sure to take out the chicken and flip it over so you can put it in for another 30. If this was white meat, I wouldn't be cooking it this long, but because it's chicken leg, you can cook it for a little longer, and I think it'll just taste better. After I do that, I turn the broiler on and put the chicken in for about 3 minutes. It's so you can get those crispy, almost charred bits that you'd expect from tandoori chicken. It's a good way to try to approximate that type of oven setting at home. And despite the skin ripping off the chicken when I flipped it over, it still tastes really good.
Well, this turned out better than I thought. It's like so good. Yes! Yes!
So after the chicken is cooked, you should let it rest for a little bit so it's not too hot. I try to look cool with that tong and the knife, but ultimately, if you want to take apart the chicken, you should do it by hand. This was still a little hot when I was handling it, so it took me longer than I expected. But just use your hands when you're doing this. It's a lot easier. You have a lot more control. You can break it into smaller pieces, and you eat a few pieces along the way too. Afterwards, I just did a little rough chop to make these a little smaller so they'd fit in the quesadillas a little better.
Okay. Nice tortillas. Not the mission ones. You want good ones. Oaxaca cheese. You see this? It's good cheese. Get a melting cheese. Mozzarella. Oaxaca. Others. It's so much better. You just gotta try it.
You should put a non-stick pan on the stove. Preheat it to a medium-high heat. I made the mistake of not preheating it, and so my tortillas turned more cracker-like instead of a soft, pliable tortilla that you would expect. Eventually it started working though, and once you start getting those nice bubbles, I'd recommend taking it off the heat and adding that cheese. These cheese chunks are way too big. This is a messed up batch. You should crumble it smaller. I would generally recommend underfilling your quesadillas so they don't go spilling at the sides. You want it to close up really nicely, and here I just overfilled it. I put it back on the heat. You can tell that it's more cracker-like because of the way all those little particles, the tortilla particles, spread across the pan. But it still tastes good, and the cheese slowly melts despite me putting way too big chunks in it. On a second try, I do a little better with the cheese. I would still crumble that smaller, and I still overfill this quesadilla. So don't do what I do. Do better than me. However, if I do say so myself, these look pretty good, and they taste pretty good. I'm talking during this part, but I'm going to talk over that because I'm cutting this quesadilla on a plate. I try to show you the cheese pull, and I completely pull it out of frame. I'm using a dull knife, so it's not even cutting through this quesadilla, which is ridiculous. Please sharpen your knives, don't be like me. Here's the taste test.
Okay, let's see how this tastes. Tandoori chicken quesadilla. One bite. Everyone knows the rules. This is so good. The cheese is big. It's a little dry, but the spices, the cheese, the Oaxaca cheese makes the biggest difference. I highly recommend everyone try this. If you have any ideas how to make this better, tell me, because this is a solid starting off point. Enjoy.
So, after watching that all back, I wanted to say a few things. One is that I got most of my tandoori chicken recipe from Adam Ragusia's tandoori chicken recipe video. This is not my personal recipe I grew up with. This is something I learned from him, and so I'm including that recipe in the description. A lot of what I say about cutting the chicken to the bone, a lot about what I talk about when it comes to ripping stuff with my hands, all that stuff is from Adam Ragusia. So please watch his video. It's much better than mine. If you cook his chicken, it'll taste better than the chicken I made in this video. This is just the one I made on this random weeknight. Second thing I'd say is, I didn't use all that chicken for those 2 quesadillas. I used that chicken for 3 recipes later in the week. I made tandoori chicken quesadillas again. They were a lot better that time. I also used it for just like a basic chicken over rice, and then I ate it in like a taco sort of thing. So this just shows you that you can do a lot more than what I did in that recipe with that chicken. You'll have a lot of leftovers, and once you chop it into smaller pieces, you can use it for a lot. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope you enjoyed my first cooking video. Subscribe, or don't, if anyone's watching. I hope you have a nice day. Godspeed.